E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinois Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys over at the Hometown Good News magazine. We're very excited that they become a part of our show, and it's going to be a great magazine. They're putting together some articles, and I had the honor and privilege of writing an article on behalf of Marty Haggard, and that was quite an honor for me. And Mr. Emerson Brantley has joined us today. Donna is off today. She's taking care of some very important, necessary business, technical issues, if you know what I mean. The kind of issues that can, just, rev you up and make you wonder what in the world is going on.
And technology grand.
Yeah. Sometimes, Emerson, I think it's because Jupiter gets in line with Pluto a little bit, and it pulls the electromagnetic force off.
Watch it.
Hey, it's the best excuse I got, folks.
I can see where you're going with that, Jim. I know you.
Oh, my goodness. This entire week, Emerson, we've been talking about living an abundant life, and we can all do that.
Hold on, Jim. I gotta share a little story.
Okay.
Since you went off into astrology there, So a number of years ago, I've been doing marketing for so many years for companies, like from Fortune 100 companies that are international, right down to little hardware stores in 4,000 population towns. So I'm working with this company that they bought a publishing company that was the oldest existing company that had produced the original astrology software for I'm talking about for professional astrologers, using NASA sky charts and all of these other and GPS to get it right down to the within 3 or 4 minutes of you being born and where you were at. And I'm out there. You've seen me, Jim, on the stage. I mean, I'm there wearing a suit. At that time, I actually was wearing a 3-piece suit, and I've got the cufflinks going, and I'm in there, and they give me a little office area. This company had never had a marketing plan or campaign. They had come about in the 70s or 80s, and everybody knew, and they had sent out mail and whatever. I don't know how they got their business, but they were the original company. And so we had acquired them, and they sent me out to make a marketing program for them so we could get out there and just explode it. So I'm working in there, and I'm working on a marketing campaign. I've created a nice sales letter, a sales web page, and I've done all of this stuff, or I'm doing all of this stuff. And I got to tell you, these folks are walking around like in pajamas, I mean, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, your aura is wrong. And after about 2 days of this, I came in and I looked down this row of cubicles, Jim. And I said, guys, you need to lighten up some. And they went, oh, what do you mean lighten up? You're the suit from the new owners, and your aura and I said, guys, listen. Now folks, this isn't to offend anybody who follows astrology very carefully, okay? I said, guys, listen, the word is out. People know. The universe doesn't revolve around the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. We can
Mm-hmm.
sell this. And from the rest of the week and a half I was there, they were okay. They were cool. It was like I was in on it and it was all right. But the thing was so funny because I was like a non-believer coming
Mm-hmm.
in for them.
Right. Yeah.
And I just kind of positioned it a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on, it was okay. I was okay. I got it. It's okay. But it was just funny.
Yeah. Yeah, this week we've been sharing a lot of great information about living an abundant life. And, Emerson, the other day, I don't know if it was me and you on the show or me and Donna, but I made the comment about.
We do look a little different, Jim. Okay. I've lost a little bit of hair,
Yeah.
I mean, at one time I might have looked kind of like that.
I got the white hair up here instead of down here.
Well, she doesn't have this,
Yeah. And that's true. And, but anyway, I said, one of the things that we really enjoy doing about this show is the fact that when we put out good information, not only does the audience out there in TV land find it, infotaining, but we either learn something ourselves or we remind ourselves of something that we knew, but we just, forgot about it over a period of time. So it's a win-win situation. And that's what makes this show such a fun show to do, isn't it, Emerson?
Oh yeah. You take that whole series we did on W. Clement Stone.
Oh yeah.
And there were so many things because I was in my 20s back when I worked for a combined insurance company for W. Clement Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things in life experience that now, as I look at it, I see the wisdom of so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also understand, just as in the law of attraction, isn't about sitting around waiting for the universe to just smack you with $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But we grow as we are sharing with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just like you and I are sitting, sitting on the porch and having a conversation, or sitting at the dining room table, or sitting in our office or wherever, and having a conversation where we're drilling deep, where we're drilling down. And it may not always feel like that's what's taking place, but the synergy between me and our Donna when Donna's on, and the things that it triggers and everything else, what we're really doing, folks, is we're drilling down.
Mm-hmm.
We're drilling down because we're all on this plane and we're all walking, in this path. And there's a certain number of days that you've been assigned. We don't know what it is. And we're all looking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many answers all around us that when we step back and we just stop and use our 2 ears instead of our mouth, which isn't what I'm doing right now. But there's so much that we can begin to understand that can help in our life. And today the talk that we're doing is about being an abundant life. And really, a lot of people choose not to have an abundant life.
Yeah.
But live a life that's full of blame and discontent and anger and lack and unhappiness. When those things are choices.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of the game here.
No, I got to share something with you because in all of our shows, we just have a basic idea of what we're going to talk about, but we really flow with the energy. And I'll tell you why. The energy that comes from above is, and I don't mean this in any kind of a negative way, it's just a fact. It's a lot more knowledgeable of what you need to hear rather than what we can conceive and believe that you need to hear. And the way it
It's fluid.
flows,
It's very fluid.
yes, and it's
Yeah,
very
we
important.
used to have a saying in the sailing club: flexible is way too rigid.
Mm,
Flexible is
I
way
like
too
that.
rigid. We need to be willing to make that flow, and that's true in every aspect of our life. Because
Yes.
life,
Yeah.
maybe it's never happened to some of the viewers out there. I don't know, but life can throw us curveballs
Oh, yeah.
that we just there was no way to see them coming.
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like someone yanked the carpet out from under your feet, and
And you were on a flying carpet when they did.
other times you feel like a rag doll in the mouth of a dog when they turn you loose. You're kind of like, what? What was that?
And
But
then the
we were,
dog gets swallowed by Jonah's whale.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And Donna and I, we were on a summit and we were talking, and I was on. We spoke individually, but we're on the same summit. And I was talking, and there was live conversation coming in. And this young guy made the comment, well, the reason why I haven't been able to succeed, and I'm just kind of like paraphrasing the words, because he said, I don't have any money and I don't have any access to money. And see, that is a story that we build up in our minds to help us self justify why we have never pursued a path or went down a path or been able to improve our life. And I told him, I says, well, I grew up on a farm in North Carolina. I was born and raised in Shelby. And the first 13 years of my life, we lived on a farm. I mean, Dad had a small farm. It wasn't big, but we grew cotton and corn. And we never had much money. In fact, I didn't know we were poor till I went to town.
You know what? That's so true of so many kids, though, Jim.
Yeah, yeah.
You grow up, what you know is normal. That's it.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
it's true. It's true to the good. It's true to the
Mhm.
bad. Kids who are in an abusive home, they just
Mhm.
assume that's the way every kid's home is.
Yeah.
Kids who are in a loving home, they assume that's how every kid's home is.
Mhm.
It's not. It's the until kids get to a certain age, they
Mhm.
don't know that
Right.
these 4 kids in their class got a bicycle and they didn't.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
growing up, I mean, and I'll share this. I'm going to share this, Jim.
Sure.
When my family made a big move from Georgia to Florida, I was
Mhm.
actually born in Florida, but then they moved to
Mhm.
Alabama and then to Georgia, and
Mhm.
so I was about 8. We moved back. True
Mhm.
story. We were camping out. They rented a place for about a month that somebody had taken a chicken coop.
Mhm.
Don't worry if you've never seen a chicken coop; they're not very big.
Yeah. You hadn't missed anything.
You haven't missed anything. This one had a concrete floor, but they had taken a chicken coop and
Mhm.
converted it into a little 2-room. I don't know what you'd call it. Efficiency.
A
Okay,
shack.
shack.
Mhm.
It had a concrete floor, so it wasn't a dirt floored shack or anything like
Mhm.
that. So we were dirt poor.
Good one. Good one.
Yeah, but you know what? For me, it was where we were.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. My
Mhm.
parents were making bologna sandwiches on white bread and tomato sandwiches on
Ooh.
white bread, and we were camping out,
Oh.
and it was just an adventure for me
Yeah.
because I was 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later
Oh.
I realized, holy Toledo, you know what? That's all that my dad was able to do at that moment.
Mhm.
That's all my mom could do at that moment.
Yeah.
But I didn't
And
know.
the
I didn't know.
oh yeah.
Like
And
you, I didn't know.
yeah. And I mean, you're looking back, what we were rich in, Emerson, were the things that money could never buy and no thief could ever steal from you.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one of my precious memories. I have a lot of them growing up. I was very, very blessed. And I remember my Aunt B. Imagine that. Growing up in North Carolina and you got an Aunt
No
B.
way.
Yeah.
No way.
Aunt Beat
For
Aunt
those of you who
Beatrice
don't know,
McCombs
Mount Airy, North Carolina is basically the town that they used as
as a
the
yeah. Model.
as the model for Mayberry for Andy Griffith's show. But
Yeah.
oh gosh, half of our audience doesn't even know any of this that I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You young folks, you got robbed. But anyway, uh, Aunt B would come over and she could toast in a cast iron skillet, a black cast iron skillet.
Oh my
She could
gosh.
toast tomato sandwiches. And I'm telling you, those things would be delicious. I would love for her to come over and take an old cast iron skillet and grill up however she did it, because she always blended it with hands of love. That's the secret ingredient that no food
Was
manufacturer.
it just red and tomatoes? What else was on it?
There was lettuce
Cheese,
in
some
there, but
ham?
she's yeah, she would make, yep, definitely cheese. Yeah, but I don't really remember all the ingredients. I remember cheese with tomato and some lettuce in there, but the way that she would golden brown that white
Oh
bread.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man, and it wasn't soggy or anything like that. It was
No,
just, anyway. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to go out
it
and
had
have
all the
tomato
basic food
sandwiches.
groups in it, Jim.
Yeah.
White flour, grease, and
And handmade with hands of love. That's the secret
right.
ingredient that really, all moms and grandmothers who are great cooks, aunts and whatever, they always prepared their food with the hands of love for their family. And that is so
Very true.
very important. And
My
today,
mother and dad died 5 weeks apart, Jim.
hmm,
I was about 26 when they died.
wow.
So all of you folks who have elderly parents, we just lost my wife's mother, who was just a month shy of being 92.
Bless her heart.
So as much of a challenge as it is, and as difficult as it is, there's something about being able to have them around through your life that's magic.
Yes.
It was magic for me that I ended up having a second and a third family where they basically adopted me, not as a son-in-law, but as a son. But yeah, I mean, cherish it. Just cherish it.
Oh, yeah.
It's frustrating as it can be sometimes, but resist the temptation to treat them like children at that moment, and recognize that if we use our two ears and our one mouth, we can get a lot of wisdom we don't have to suffer through in order to learn.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to read one little quote here. We got to get and cover a few of the holidays today.
Oh yeah.
But in the book that we're showing down there, The 7 Levels of Truth by Mr. Bill Heinrich, I'm just going to share a brief message here in the 7th chapter of Living Abundantly. And he says, don't change your life today. Simply allow yourself to start to become familiar with the resources that I have outlined in this book. And that is some great advice, because so many times when we want to change something, we just want to jump right in there and start throwing pieces this way and that way and then replacing parts. And Bill's, what he is saying there is do it with a relaxed attitude. Just, it's kind of like losing weight.
Yeah.
You see some of these ridiculous ads and all that. And when I first came out of the hospital, I weighed 172 pounds. And even though I wasn't heavy, but I was heavy in some of the stuff I need to get rid of, which would also reduce some of the cholesterol in my body, which would be, fat around my tummy. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And so I decided, well, I'm going to do it gradually, give my body a chance to adjust. And I'm not going to pick a number. I'll let my body pick the number, because my body is more capable of doing that than for me to flip a coin and say, okay, I want to weigh X number of pounds. And I'm down now to 155, and I don't think I'll get any lighter than that. But if it does, it does. If it doesn't, so what? I'm not going to say, I want to be 150 again or anything like that, because that's putting way too much undue pressure on you. And I use that as an analogy because, ladies and gentlemen, too many times we put too much pressure Honest, it reminds me, Emerson, I don't know if I've shared this with you or not, but one time when I was an overly intelligent teenager, about 13, I got to tell people I was a kid in the 50s and an overly intelligent teenager in the 60s. We're going to church one Sunday morning, and I
That
asked
was
my
back when
mother,
you thought your dad was probably the dumbest man in the world, and it was 2 or 3
yeah,
years before you recognized how much he had grown, right?
that's right. Yeah. In fact, I was about 13. That was about almost about 12 years before I realized how smart he was.
How
And
much he had grown over those years.
yeah, I mean, amazing. The light bulb went off and dad was at home. And I remember we were riding towards the church building and I got this, brilliant idea in my mind. I said, hey, Mom, when we sing in church, do we sing because we're happy or do we sing because we have to? And she looked at me and she says, in your case, sonny boy, you will sing because you have to be happy.
That's right. That's
Mom,
right.
Mom's always had a way of taking the slack out of the chain.
That's
And
right.
and on the national today, today is National Lasagna Day. And that's a wonderful dish. I love lasagna. I really do. And, not the stuff you eat in restaurants. I'm talking about the homemade stuff. I mean, you
You mean
just
like
can't
the
beat that.
stoufers that
Yeah.
you get in the box? Oh
No,
no, different homemade.
no. Different homemade. Yeah. Yeah. We're talking about.
Jim, the first time that my wife's mother invited us over for dinner.
Mhm.
After we were married, they came and built a house about 40 miles south of us, and so this is in the first year or two that we were married. She invites me for dinner. She said, we're gonna have my homemade lasagna.
Okay.
They lived in a motorhome for 15 years. She didn't cook and keep all sorts of spices and stuff like. We go in and she has a thing of Stouffer, and we don't get paid by Stouffer's, folks, but of Stouffer of frozen lasagna that she had bought from the store, and she's pulling it out of the oven in the aluminum pan. and I laughed with her for that right up until just a few days before she left this.
Oh yeah, because she did make it right there in a little home, didn't she?
That was her home cooked lasagna.
There you go. And it's like my dear old mother used to tell me. Remember, sonny boy, it's the thought that counts.
That's right. And if you don't like the thought, go make your own.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But and you'll be thinking about it the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Also July the 29th on this Friday, this is the day that they recognize the National Challenge Champions and Heroes Awareness Day. And excuse me, folks. I've been eating peanuts and I got a few things that are stuck in my throat, so I apologize for that. When it comes to recognizing people who have they've been handicapped to some, and I hate to use that word handicapped, but people that
experience challenges that they weren't expecting.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe they were. Maybe they grew up with the challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're challenged and they overcome the challenge. And it wasn't until 2015, and this is pitiful, 2015, that Dr. Robin A. Lococo, I guess you pronounce it Lococo. If I mispronounce your name, Doc, I apologize, but I have a degree in mispronouncing words correctly the first time. But what I'm saying is that it took him to 2015 before the Challenge Champions and Heroes was founded. And he wins the presidential award in 2016. Excuse me, she won the award. Dr. Robin Lococo is a female, and she wins it from the former president of Ethiopia, Germa Goras. It's an excellent service award, and she wins another award in 2018, the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018, and in 2019, the day is founded by Robin in memory of her sister, Deborah Main, who died from cerebral palsy when she was 3 years of age. But it's a wonderful thing because some of the great people, great inspirational people in life are not people on a stage. They're not people that's best-selling authors. They're people who pick up the pieces of life. And they say, I may have this condition, but this condition does not own me. And
Or
that's
define
very,
you.
yeah, define me. That's a good way of putting it, Emerson. It really is.
In fact,
And
when I met my wife was a lifetime diabetic. And, I had, this is how the universe works, Jim.
mhm,
with my first wife,
mhm,
I helped prepare her master's papers
mhm,
because I was a very, very early adapter on the internet.
mm,
And so I was going to bulletin boards. I was going to you didn't have a Google and things like that back
mhm.
then.
Right.
But I was doing the research and I was putting together the information for her master's papers.
Mhm,
And her master's thesis was on diabetic education. Now, most of the people out there, I'm going to just I'm speaking for myself at that time, but I think this is pretty much accurate. Most people think of diabetes as, oh, you can't eat sugar. And it's a lot more than just sugar.
mhm,
It's a lot of balance. It's a lot of chemistry. It's a lot of understanding of how the different glands work in your body, how your liver produces insulin, and there's two different types of diabetes. But I remember saying to my wife before we got married, I said, when I marry you, I marry your diabetes too.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Mhm,
What we're talking about here, Jim, she took umbrage with that
mhm,
because she doesn't define herself
mhm.
by that. So
Amen.
when we're talking about disabilities, that may be a word that the people who we are referring to don't use to define
Oh,
their
no, they
life.
don't. No, they don't. So
That's critical.
yeah, so anyone out
And
there
it's something we can all learn from too.
yes, and if there's anyone out there that when I use the word disabled or whatever, please forgive me if that offended you or that kind of we don't use that word. Please forgive my ignorance, and I don't have any problem publicly apologizing for that because you're right. Because hey, we all have imperfections, right? I mean, just think,
Well,
just like
we
what
all
you,
have different characteristics. We all have
yeah,
different
yep,
traits. We all have different
mhm,
strengths. We all have different weaknesses.
yeah,
They're not necessarily even imperfections. They're
right.
just they're differences.
Hmm.
And what we
Well,
define,
mhm,
and this comes from my marketing background, okay? What we define as normal
mhm,
is an illusion. It's not something that even exists. If you
mhm.
want to say, well, normal is what average people are like. Well, average is the best of the worst and the worst of the best. It's not anywhere near
Mhm,
what if you take 100 people, if you take
mhm,
1,000 people, maybe whatever your definition is might fit
mhm,
on average.
mhm,
But more than half of those people will probably be on a continuum that's from nowhere near to kind of close.
mhm,
And that's true physically, mentally, emotionally, in relationships, and
mhm,
everything else.
mhm. You're exactly right because when you made the comment earlier about when you married your wife, you also married her diabetes, and
Yeah.
that same thing is true when one person marries another. You marry all of them, every bit of them,
Yes.
the good, the bad, however you want to label it, it's the whole package. It's either all in or you're all out, one of the two.
Well, and honestly, marriage is one of those things that's another whole topic of discussion.
Mhm,
But for many people, they don't see the need to make it legal, to be married legal or whatever. And their commitment may be just as strong.
mhm.
Your
That's true.
commitment isn't defined by the paper.
Mm-mm. Not at
Your
all.
commitment is a commitment that you're making with your heart.
Mhm.
And I
Exactly.
recognize that. It
Yeah.
wasn't It's just like in our country, not everywhere, but in our country, typically in a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
whose last name is used?
The husband's.
The man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I don't have any ego or any need I don't have any need for that to be the case. And in marketing, you know, I have a little different perspective because I've seen a lot of different sides of a lot of different issues. And my wife was a respected artist and had painted massive murals, one of the largest or the largest in the country at that time. And she said, "Well, what do you think about the last name thing?" Now she'd been married 3 times before. I said, what? You can't change your last name. That's your brand.
Yeah.
So the marketer sometimes gets it, you know.
Yeah.
Before I do myself.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah. I got it. Mm-hmm. I got it. Yeah, it's really really amazing like that, because I've also known couples that that never married, but they loved and cared for each other, because the only difference between them and married couples was a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And Emerson, I think one of the things for a person to start changing their life to enjoy a life of abundance, I think the starting point, at least for me, and I'd like for you to expand on this if you would, is to begin by, there's an old saying, count your blessings. Be grateful for what you have. And that is a starting point to change your life and to live in abundance. I mean, it's to know where you're at, if you're enjoying good health, look at the people in this world who are struggling with health issues. Yeah. That's a great analogy right there, isn't it?
It is. And to be honest, having a sense of gratitude, but having a gratitude list, whether you write it down or not, I suggest you do, and you look at it at least a few times a week, if not every day, and you think about it. I would say meditate on it, but consider it. Don't just read it, and recognize the little things, not just big things in your life, but little things that matter, and the people that matter, and the things about your life that you can be grateful for. And if you have a challenge being grateful for your life, if all you can think of is the challenges and the difficulties and how horrible it is and everything else, God love you. Mm-hmm. My recommendation there is go volunteer. Go volunteer at a soup kitchen. Go volunteer at a retirement home. Go volunteer at a burn clinic. Go volunteer somewhere where people have had their lives pulled apart, and begin to minister to them, to share with them, to help them, to give to them, and grow from that experience. As my mother used to say, the teacher learns more from the students, right? We grow more when we're willing to give more.
That's true.
This isn't some loosey-goosey kind of philosophy. You'll be hard pressed to find any situation where, if you go in and give, as my mother used to say, you can't outgive a giver. You go in and are sharing and giving, and people are growing, it comes back to you.
Oh yeah.
It empowers you. It enriches you. You find people that you would have never met before. And those people will lead you to people that you want to be meeting in many cases in your life. And maybe you don't even know you want to meet them.
Oh,
There's so many nuances to, and scripturally it says, if you cast your bread on the water, it returns after many waves. There's so many nuances to what goes around comes around. The more that you give, the more that you get. Abundant life. What? Give me just a second, Richard.
Go ahead.
If I have abundance, I can hoard it all and keep it to myself. But that's not an attitude of abundance. That's an attitude of fear of I may not get it. It may be taken away, or maybe the economy will change tomorrow, or maybe someone will break in and take it and I'll lose it. That's not abundance. Abundance is recognizing I'm okay. And regardless of what happens in my life, I'll find a way. I'll find a way to go over, under, around, through, to adapt, to change. And the universe or God will bring new connections, new people, new opportunities, because that is an endless abundance. And when you have that mentality, you're tapping into that universal abundance. As we used to say, and this is real, just in one small area here, but as we used to say when I was involved in business finance, we used to say, you know what, there's more money than there are deals. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever tried to find money for a business or a deal or a project or anything else, you know what, I got a lot of deer in headlights from that. Because it's challenging. You have to go out there. You have to have a lot of lunches. You have to sit and talk. You have to make phone calls. You have to do this. You have to do. But you know what? The reality is, once you tap into that abundance, you have people lined up who want to fund what you're doing. And funding is just a tiny little part of life. The truth is, in all of our life, if we're giving, and that's our mindset, we have abundance, so we're giving from the abundance. I mean, look, if I take a thimble and I go down to the beach here and I pick up a thimble full of ocean water, I defy you to find any measuring system in the world that can determine how much water the oceans of the world just lost. Because it's an abundance. I can take a bucket of water. I'll take a 5-gallon bucket, and I'll challenge you to find any measuring stick that can measure the fact that I just took and the ocean dropped. But the reality is, I just took that out, and that reduced what was in the ocean, didn't it? The thing is, abundance recognizes there's so much that I can spend the rest of my life and I won't ever get it all.
That's a good way of putting it.
I'll never get it all. I can do it for the rest of my life. That's abundance. It's a sense that, you know what? You can't outgive a giver. It's going to be okay. The solution is going to present itself. I have confidence. The right people will appear in front of me. The right opportunities will appear. And I've had it happen so many times, Jim, I can't even tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So many times.
It's kind of like Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone wrote in the book, The Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. Get my tongue going here. They talk about how little hinges open big doors. And that is a great analogy to look at, because it's the little things in life that you do to help others that will open the big doors of abundance to come to you. And, I kind of get a chuckle out of people who think that, they're the great I am. They got to take the bull by the horns and all that. Let go of the bull. You don't need that bull in your life. What you got to do is focus on being grateful for what you have, sharing what you have, and look for ways to be a blessing to others. And, the one thing that I've always felt when I go up to our church building, I work with the food bank, and we would, give groceries to people that, in need and that sort of thing. But when I left there, I had a good feeling in my heart. I had a good feeling in my heart that I went up there to participate, to do my little portion, my little share to help others get and get their come and get their groceries, a place where they could come and get groceries and as part of the food bank and that and bread partners and all that. We were just a gathering place there for everybody to come and to receive, receive their food. And the feeling that I have from doing that, and no one asked me to do it. I certainly didn't get paid for it.
Well, you didn't buy the food.
Yeah, and I didn't buy the food.
No, what you were doing was giving of your time.
Mm-hmm.
What you were doing was showing that you cared.
Mm-hmm.
What you were doing was being the person who helped them with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the face of it at that moment. And that giving is equally important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have corporations, many times, not always, but in food banks I've been part of, you have corporations that will designate that when food reaches a certain point, it can go to the food bank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their alternative, and unfortunately an awful lot of corporations do this, their alternative is to toss it in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so it's and in our lawsuit crazy society, I don't discount their reasoning for that. But I also admire the companies who say, you know what, we're going to pull this off of our shelf so that it can go to the food bank and it can help people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It does no good in a landfill.
Not at all.
Not and they also understand the expiration date on most food, much of the food. The expiration date isn't the expiration date like, abandon hope, all ye who open this and eat it. It's a safety date for a company. And the main reason that a company puts an expiration date on a product in the food industry, especially, isn't necessarily because it's dangerous after that. It's because it might not appeal to you as much after that date. And they don't want to deal with complaints. They don't want to deal with the problems and the things from somebody who says, I bought this and it was dry,
Yeah.
it was dry and your company should do a better job.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times why you have an expiration date.
Yeah, they just want to keep up image and all that.
And
another thing,
I don't blame them.
Not at all. Not at all. Huh? Yeah, because you want to keep everything fresh, because that is an easy way for them to be able to keep their sunny side up with the customers, as you might say. And another thing about living a life of abundance, this is something that I did not do for a long time, even though I had read about it in the books by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. And that was to set aside a time and just stop and think, become a dreamer. And where I missed the boat on that one, ladies and gentlemen, is I just so busy, got my wheels going, spinning my wheels like a car engine in the mud, just wide open. But sometimes you just got to stop, set aside a time to let the noise in your life settle like the dust after the wind is blown, and just think and be a dreamer. What it is that you want to do with your life, what is your desire in your heart, and how to, and just anything that comes in your mind. And that's also a great time to give thanks for what you have. And that's going to open the door right open there. I've tried that, and I know for a fact it works. And if it works on somebody as dumb as I am, for you, it's going to be a piece of cake.
Well, it's important that the thing about dreaming is we take the lid off and we let our mind, our subconscious, we let our subconscious begin to explore.
Mhm.
and play. Okay, we let our subconscious begin to play and get into the what ifs instead of the have tos. Get into the place where it's starting to think of the possibilities and not
Mhm.
the limitations.
Mhm.
And sometimes the stuff that comes back is really dumb,
Mhm.
you know, and sometimes it's crazy,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's like a lightning bolt hits you, and you
Oh
go,
yeah. Oh
"Oh
yeah.
my gosh!" And you realize that all of the time, effort, energy, and focus that
Mhm.
you spent on
Mm.
something or in some direction was like spinning your wheels in the sand,
Mm.
and where you're really dreaming and wanting
Mhm.
is over here. And
Yeah.
and here's another element of life. Viewers who've seen us before probably have heard me say this before, but in life, it takes a marginal shift
Mhm.
to create a quantum leap.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not about I got to work harder, I got to spend more hours, I got to talk to more people, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's not about all of that.
Mhm.
It's about finding the little marginal shifts
Mhm.
because you're already doing a lot of things. And sometimes just a tiny adjustment, just a little adjustment is all it takes.
Mhm.
And Jim, you've heard me use this example before. I use the example of a fly hitting the windshield, hitting the window, right? Now we've all been in some place or seen some place where, there was a fly trying to get out of a window, and usually there's one or two
Mhm.
others that are dead on the windowsill.
Mhm.
What's amazing is if you look at that fly will just keep hitting that window until it is exhausted, brain dead, or dies, or whatever.
Mhm.
And it will die on that windowsill.
Mhm.
When in most cases, if that fly just shifted just a few degrees,
Mhm.
it would find an open door or window that it could fly out.
Yeah.
That's
That's
the
true.
marginal shift. It's not about working harder and hitting that window more and more and more and more and more to break it. It's about finding that little marginal shift. What is it that you dream about? What is it that you want? What is it that lights your fire? And too often, when we get caught up in all the stuff that we're doing, we use all of our brain power on all the things that aren't working and how I have to fix it and what I need to do and this and that and the other.
Mhm.
The idea of being willing to do this gives your subconscious mind,
Mhm.
the universe, if you will, okay,
Yeah.
but gives your
Mhm.
subconscious mind the opportunity to play in the sandbox and rethink it. And,
Mm.
and really, it leads right into this next one that you've got up here, Jim, which is
Mhm.
change your mindset a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Before we go into that, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to, Emerson, you and I have read some of the same books by Napoleon Hill and W.
Oh
Clement
yeah,
Stone, and I believe it was in one of those books. I'm not sure, but I do recall reading the story of this guy. I believe he was a scientist, and he was always looking for answers to complicated questions and things he was working on. And he kept a notepad and a pencil or pen by his nightstand. And what he would do if he woke up in the middle of the night and he had an idea, he'd turn the light on, he'd write that down.
yep.
And then he cut the light back off. Then he could go to sleep with confidence, knowing that he wrote it down. Well, the story goes this gentleman and a friend of his, a colleague, was on an airplane, and they were both, sitting there flying along. And his friend said, "I'm going to rest my eyes." And he fell asleep. And then the friend was just sitting there and he's looking around. He's not really tired, but his buddy's sitting there and, sleep. And all of a sudden, his buddy wakes up, reaches into his coat pocket, pulls out a pad of paper, pen, and he scribbled something down. He put the pen and the pad back into his pockets and drifted right back off to sleep. And his buddy says, "Well, that's pretty unique. That's a pretty good trick there." So they get off the plane. And he told him about it, and the friend says, "Well, I didn't write anything down." He says, "Oh, yes, you did. You woke up and you wrote something down. Check your pad you got in your pocket. He pulled it out and he says, oh my gosh, that is the answer I've been searching for with this scientific complicated problem. So the point of it is that shows you the way your subconscious mind can come to your rescue when you, especially when you're dreaming and you're wanting to change your life. You're looking for answers. And if you give thanks for what you got, and that'll lead you right into mindset. We don't have but about 3 minutes left or so, but alter your mindset. I mean, how important is that, Emerson?
Oh, it's massive.
Mm-hmm.
It's massive. And really, it does tie in with what you're saying, because the challenge for me, for us, for everybody, is to stop thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to get our head out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because often the answers we already have.
Mm-hmm.
The answers are already there. But we find all the reasons why they won't work, all the excuses why we tried and failed, all the reasons, all the logic behind why nobody will do this, or it won't work that way, or we tried that 100 times, or he won't do this, or she won't do that. And we get our head out of the way. And centering and doing things that help, to meditating, to help yoga, to help us get our head out of the way, allows all of that to just begin working. And it's hard to get through the noise. It's hard to get through the clutter, and to get to the place where we go, oh yes. But it's not, I don't know, it's not rocket science. We've all experienced it.
Oh,
But I think, Jim, the bigger part is trusting it. And as far as a pad, I started, you're not supposed to have blue light at night, but it's never seemed to bother me to go back to sleep. But I've started using my phone and just pulling it up and putting in enough that I can remember what it is the next day, and then go back to sleep.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to turn on a light and everything else and wake my wife. But when you have those, if you don't write it down, you don't forget it. If you don't put it down when it happens, the subconscious is going to be buried again the next morning. By all the noise, by all the stuff, by all the lists, by all the things, by all the pulls and demands and strings and everything else.
All the yakety sacks going on in your life.
Yeah. So definitely do those things.
Another thing too is that when you write it down, now you know that you know that you know that you know. I can go back to sleep. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about remembering it, because how many times have I know this, and I think everybody's done it. You wake up from a dream, you go like, wow. I'm going to tell my wife about that in the morning. It's kind of, and I can't even remember an inch of it.
You don't remember it, yeah.
And it seemed like I've been at the movies all night long.
Some of the most successful marketing campaigns that I've had, the inspiration has hit me at 4 a.m.
Yes.
4 a.m. And that's true. And I have waken up. I've come awake literally giggling and laughing. Because I've already recognized this is it. I'm not even awake yet. And I'm already giggling and laughing at it's a giddy kind of a thing. That I have. This is what I've been trying to find, and had been racking my head. And had a team of people racking their heads, and all of a sudden there it is. Poof.
Yeah. That would have been funny if when we were all in Tomball there, Donna and me and you and everybody, if you'd have come out at 4 o'clock in the morning giggling, we would have figured you was on something, brother.
Yeah, I don't know how y'all would have taken that.
But I understand that, because sometimes I wake up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and my mind is clear. I got something on my mind. I got to get up. I've got to get something, got to get going in that direction, whether it's send out an email or write down something or add something to modify my list or whatever it is, just get up and do it. And
I have learned if I don't, first of all, if I don't get up and do it, I'm going to sit there and toss and turn and thinking about it too.
Oh yeah.
And most of the time, just the act of writing it down does the job. But sometimes you're right. I need to sit down and go in more detail than that, or take certain things, or check something, or pull a file out, or whatever. But take action. Take action.
Absolutely. And most importantly, to give you the confidence that you can go right back to sleep, you can rest, and to know that you're in charge. And our show is brought to you by the 7 Levels of Truth, the book by Mr. Bill Heinrich, a good friend of ours. You can get it on Amazon, the 7 Levels of Truth. And the screen's kind of small there. But anyway, it's a great book. We're also brought to you by, let me see here. Where's it at? Here we go. Our Hometown Good News magazine. We're excited about that. Emerson's going to have an article in there. I'm going to have an article in there. And I had the privilege of being able to write Merle Haggard's oldest son, Marty, his life with his dad, write that story. I'm very excited about that. And our show is also, we recognize the charity of Healing Acres Never Again. This charity was created by one of our own here in our family, Charlene Fouts. Charlene experienced the full gamut of incest, rape, spousal abuse, toxic relationships, and all. And so she started, her and some other people created the Healing Acres Never Again. They're redoing their website right now, but look at them on Facebook. It's a wonderful place, not only for women, but also for some men. And they're international, and it's a wonderful place for someone who is suffering from that type of abuse, and they're looking for a friend. I recommend the Healing Acres Never Again. And Emerson,
tell them if you call, tell them that you heard it, that you're so happy that you heard it. Mm-hmm. And by the way,
on our TV show,
on this show, we're not even charging them for this.
No.
Let them know that you heard it on this show. That's not what this is about. It's so that they know that their word is getting out.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very excited to work with them. And on behalf of Emerson and myself, we want to thank you for tuning in today. We sincerely hope that we've been a blessing to you. And for all you folks out there in TV land, be sure and stop by our YouTube channel. The Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show is what's listed there on YouTube. And at any time, if you want some information from us or want to talk to us or whatever, please email us at inspiration@e360tv.com. And in closing, Emerson, we like to always say, be sure and love yourself. Love yourself first. Give yourself grace. And remember that you're entitled to living a life full of love and abundance. You're that special. Aren't they, Emerson?
Yes. You deserve happiness.
There you go. Thank you much, folks. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.